cut up the coffee table only to find that this thing was made pretty solid, and then I found these guys in here. So they've got internal joins inside these timbers. So my next thought was perhaps they've also done it in the top, which might cause an issue for cutting a neck. So I chopped off a board, and yes, and then I thought, oh God, how deep do these things go? So I pulled one out and it goes halfway, so I can assume that on the other side is another one. They've just got these all the way through. So there goes my neck idea. But what I think I can do, assuming they're not staggered and they do just go straight through, is I could make the body, if I cut down here and cut down here, could make the body, my test body, this is 30 mil thick. I only need 20 mil, so I'll be able to mill the surface of it. I could make two halves, and that'll give me a hardwood body at least out of this piece. And then I'll have to find something else for the neck. I did buy a piece of treated Tasmanian oak from the shop, but it's not quite deep enough again. But I may have to use that for the neck. So that's where we're at. Hit a bit of a hiccup with using this old coffee table for the guitar. I was going to try and make an entire guitar out of it, but I seem a bit stuck now, so we'll have to find something else for the neck. Made use of the cut slits down the side. So I cut one open and that's what happens. There was a bit of timber running right through the core of the whole thing, which I've just pushed out, and I'm using that as my clamp down area. So we'll put this, give this a surface. I'm going to take, I think it's like I said, 30 mil thick. I need 20 mil, so I'm going to take 5 mil off this side and 5 mil off the other side, and we'll see what it looks like. I'm surfacing the top here. I'm just taking off the first millimetre of wood off the top there, then I'll flip it over and I'll cut out the shape of the guitar, and then I hope to be able to put it in my jig. So I'm just surfacing the top here, taking off the mill, that way I don't have to, I mean it's 30 mil thick, so I've got to take away 10 mil in the end, but I figure I'll just cut away the excess, that way I'm not spending time surfacing material that I don't need, I'm going to throw out anyway. So first part, I'll surface this. I'm just using a router cutting tool there, running the machine at 2200 millimeters per minute. I think the spindle's at 24,000. And I'm doing about a 75% step over. Yeah. Anyway, let's see how this goes. I'll just tell you about my mill. So I made this probably about 12 years ago now. It's come in extremely handy. So the whole thing is fits inside a 6x4 trailer. So those legs just fit inside a trailer. So it is transportable. Although it is extremely heavy, it is still transportable. So it runs on 4 screws here. We've got one at the back here. And it's got a nice big Z-axis, so that I can cut really deep, because the table itself, it sits on these 4 rails, and then I've got a chain that's hooked up to a motor at the back there, so I can lower the whole table down for cutting larger jobs if I'm doing anything. I've also got a plasma cutter torch here, which I can fit in place of the spindle and do plasma cutting. So there's my plasma cutter, some of the things I've been cutting. So it's sort of a multi-purpose machine here. And then over here on the ground, I've got a rotary axis set up for plasma pipe cutting at the moment. So I was cutting some pipes up. There's one of my cuts there. So it's a fairly handy machine. There's the tray for the plasma cutter. And a very handy machine. And to control it, I use Mach 3, and my controller box down here, I'm running Gecko G540s. So I've got two of them up the back there. So I've actually got enough controllers for 8 motors. I was thinking of hooking it up to my little guy here for cutting some things, but I've just got 3 non-used controllers at the moment there. Anyway, here's my machine. Finished surfacing down to about 20 mil. I think it's about 21 mil. Might do a little bit more once it's out of the mould. Just had to clean up a little bit here, which was missed in the G code. But apart from that, you see my run tracks in and out. So next, I shall cut the shape of the guitar. So this one here is obviously a little bit smaller than the shape of the guitar because I used a bit to trim it out to make the mould there. So this is the inside cutout. So next we'll run around and cut this piece free. So here's the completed part. I've just given it a sand around the outside. It come up really well. The only issue is, being an old coffee table, it does have some flaws in the wood and it's splitting open here. So unfortunately I can't use it. I mean, I could probably put some glue in there and continue with it, but I think I'll just start afresh. And because this was initially just supposed to be a test cut, so we'll leave it at that. But yeah, so the idea of the test cut was to just check out my bits. I realised this bit here is really no good for timber. It chatters and vibrates quite a bit. I had to slow down the cutting speed, so I'll go back to my woodwork bit. I was just using this one to do the surfacing, so it's basically for a router. So let's just use the router bits from now on. It's long enough to do the 20mm cuts, so we'll just continue to use that one. Only reason I used this was because I had a bit of depth just to get around the outside of this, and I didn't want to clip the top of the mill when I was cutting, so we used that one instead. But so here's the finished piece, and the jig that I was hoping I could use, it absolutely fits in there like a glove. It's absolutely perfect. You just got to press it down. There's no movement in that whatsoever, so that is just perfect. So what I'll be able to do is basically cut the outside. As I said, the breadboard that I'm using will be 20mm thick, so there'll be no shaving of that required off the top. However, once I've cut the outside, I'll then be able to put it inside the jig, or I could cut the whole inside if I wanted to and just have it, and then cut the outside and then break it free. But the reason I made the jig was so I could do the binding on the outside, because once you've milled the inside, you then have to flip it over in order to mill the groove for the binding. So most guys use a router for that, but I thought I'd just make a jig and then use this. So the idea is from here I'll be able to run. In fact, we might actually put my bit back in there and try it. Just try run a groove around the outside of it, big enough to fit the binding. See how that goes. It shouldn't be too hard to do. Yeah, I might give that a go next, just using this bit of timber that I'm no longer going to use. So, all in all, I'd say timber failed, but the rest of it was a success.